Okay, so you're getting ready for a food technician interview, and you want to really knock it out of the park. Well, we're here to help you do just that. Today, we're diving deep into how to totally ace that interview. We've got some seriously cool resources from RoleCatcher's career guides, plus some sample interview questions.
Yeah, and food tech is awesome because it's all about combining like science and creativity. You could end up like inventing the next huge snack hit. How cool is that?
Oh, totally, totally. Okay, so let's jump right into those interview questions, huh? One that pops up all the time is, what inspired you to pursue a career as a food technician? Kind of feels like that classic tell me about yourself, but with a food tech spin, right?
Yeah, it totally is. Interviewers are really trying to get a sense of your, passion and see if your values line up with theirs. Instead of just giving them a list of reasons, think about a specific story that really shows your interest. Was there like a science fair project you did that, sparked your curiosity? Were you always like super into food labels as a kid?
So it's all about showing them your genuine enthusiasm for the stuff, right? What about questions about your experience? I bet they ask about food processing and preservation a lot, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. This is where you want to get like really specific and show off those technical skills. Mention like specific techniques you've used like canning or freezing or even, fermentation. Don't just say, "Oh yeah, I've worked with dairy products." Tell them about the types of cheese or yogurt you've handled.
Okay, makes sense. So what happens if they ask about quality control? Something like, how do you make sure food products meet quality standards? That sounds kind of intense.
Well, it's really about proving you understand the procedures and regulations and all that. Mention that you know all about like HACCP and good manufacturing practices and how you apply them. You can even give them a real life example, like how would you make sure the temperature is just right during a super important step in production? Having that HACCP certification can definitely give you a leg up, and RoleCatcher actually has some awesome guides for that if you need them.
Well, yeah, speaking of RoleCatcher, their AI thing seems really helpful for like tailoring your resume and answers to specific jobs. It's almost like having a personal coach right there in your pocket.
It really is. Let's say you're applying to a company that's all about organic baby food, right?
Right.
Rollcatcher's AI might say, hey, highlight that experience with specific certifications or regulations that apply to that industry. Ooh, smart, right?
Oh, yeah, super smart.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the questions. What about, can you describe a time when you had to troubleshoot a problem on a food processing line? I get that one really tests your problem-solving skills.
Totally does. Pick a real example and walk them through what you did. Like, how'd you even figure out there was a problem? What steps did you take to investigate? Did you, like, analyze data or talk to your colleagues or try different things? Even if it didn't work out perfectly in the end, showing them that you can analyze and adapt is super important.
So it's all about showing them how you think, not just, that you got the right answer in the end. What about questions about handling pressure? Like, can you describe a time when you had to work under pressure to meet a deadline? I was going to deal with deadlines, but I bet it's especially crucial in food production, huh?
It totally is. Think about a time when you had to like juggle a million things at once or handle some crazy unexpected challenge. Did you stay cool? Did you delegate tasks? Did you communicate clearly with your team? The key is to focus on how you stayed organized and focused and how, all that led to a successful outcome.
So it's not just saying, oh, yeah, I can handle pressure. It's showing them exactly how you do it, right?
Exactly. And remember, they love those follow-up questions. They might ask, what was the biggest roadblock in that situation? Or how did you make sure everyone was on the same page?
Oh, good point. Being ready for those follow-ups can really make you shine. Okay, what about questions about working with others? Teamwork has got to be huge as a food technician, right?
Oh, it is. You might get something like, can you describe a time when you had to work with people from other departments to achieve a common goal? Pick a real example where you had to coordinate with folks from, different areas like production or quality assurance or maybe even marketing.
And what would make a good answer to that kind of question?
Well, focus on what you specifically did to help the team succeed. Like, how did you communicate? Were there any, like, conflicts, and how'd you deal with them? Did you really listen to what everyone had to say? Show them you get how important collaboration is in a fast-paced environment, like, food production. Oh, and don't forget about those follow-ups. They might ask what was the toughest part about working with that specific department, or, how'd you keep the project on track? Being ready to go deeper shows you've really thought about those experiences.
It's like those follow-up questions really show how you think on your feet, huh? Okay, so what about staying current with everything in the industry? That's got to be important in a field that's, always changing. Do you think they'd ever ask something like, how do you stay up to date with all the latest food science and technology trends?
For sure, yeah. They want to see that you're genuinely curious and, that you're committed to always learning new stuff. You could mention specific journals or publications that you follow, like Food Technology or Journal of Food Science. Maybe you go to industry conferences or those online webinars. Even following like big names in the field on social media can be relevant.
So it's not just about saying, oh, I like to learn. It's about showing them exactly how you do it, right? Okay, what about those super specific technical questions? I remember those being kind of a nightmare during my early interviews.
Yeah, those can be tough, but they're your chance to really show off your expertise. For example, they might ask about certain food preservation techniques, like, can you explain the difference between pasteurization and sterilization? Or what are the key factors to consider when choosing a drying method for a particular food product?
Wow, those are pretty detailed. What's the best way to handle those kinds of questions?
It's all about showing that deep knowledge you have. Explain the science behind each technique, the pros and cons, and any, regulations or safety stuff to think about. You could even give examples of how you've used those techniques in your past work experience.
So it's not enough to just know the terms. You really have to understand the concepts and, like, how to use them, right?
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about customer focus. After all, food production is all about making products people actually enjoy, right? What kind of questions might pop up in this area?
They might ask something like, how do you make sure food products meet customer requirements and preferences? Or maybe, tell me about a time when you had to consider consumer feedback in your work. Okay, so how do you make your answers stand out for those kinds of questions?
Don't just say, oh, I listen to customers, right? Go deeper. Talk about like actual methods you've used to get feedback, like surveys or focus groups, or even analyzing online reviews. You could mention a time when you changed a product recipe because of customer feedback, or how you used specific ingredients to like meet a growing dietary trend. Maybe you realized people wanted more plant-based options and you helped develop a whole new vegan line.
Right, it's about showing them you get that food production isn't just about science. It's about, like, meeting people's needs and staying ahead of those trends.
Yeah,
And this is where I think RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy. It can help you tailor your answers to highlight the specific skills and experience that each company wants.
totally. RoleCatcher can analyze that job description and pick out keywords like customer focus, innovation, or sustainability. Then it'll give you ideas for how to work those keywords into your answers and even give you feedback to make sure you're hitting the right points.
It's like having a secret weapon to help you stand out, right? Okay, I think we've covered a lot on those specific interview questions. Now I want to talk about those super tricky competency-based questions. Those ones where they say, tell me about a time when.
Oh, those can be tough. But they're also a great way to show off your skills and experience in action. And hey, remember that RoleCatcher has a massive library of those competency-based questions so you can practice for like all sorts of situations and get feedback. That kind of prep can make a huge difference when you're in the hot seat.
That's great advice. Okay, let's dive into some examples of competency-based questions and how to approach them. What are some common competencies they might be looking for in a food technician?
Well, problem solving's a biggie. They might ask, tell me about a time when you ran into a complex problem in the lab. How did you deal with it?
What kind of example would be a good answer for that?
Choose a situation that really highlights your analytical skills and ability to think critically. Maybe you were working on a new product and the texture or flavor was like totally off. Walk them through what you did. Did you look up scientific papers? Did you run more tests? Did you brainstorm with your colleagues? And don't be afraid to talk about what you learned, even if you didn't, totally fix it.
So it's about highlighting that whole problem-solving process, not just the outcome. Okay, how about communication skills? I imagine that's super important in this field too, right?
Absolutely. They might ask something like, describe a time when you had to explain a technical concept to someone who didn't have a science background. How did you make sure they understood?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. It's so important to be able to communicate clearly, especially when you're working with people from different departments and, different backgrounds.
Exactly. And when you answer this type of question, really focus on your communication style. Did you use simple language and skip all the jargon? Did you use visuals or comparisons to explain things? Did you check to make sure they were following along? It's all about proving you can explain complex info in a way that everyone gets.
And it also shows you can adjust your communication style depending on who you're talking to.
Mm.
What about teamwork? How might they try to figure out if you're a good team player?
They might ask, tell me about a time when you had to work as part of a team to reach a really tough goal. What was your role and how did you help the team succeed? For this one, pick an example that shows your collaboration skills and how you understand team dynamics. Did you take the lead on anything? Did you really listen to your teammates' ideas? Did you help smooth out conflicts or keep everyone focused?
And it's okay to talk about the tough parts the team went through and how you work through them together. It shows you're realistic and you understand that teamwork isn't always sunshine and roses, but, it's how things get done.
What about initiative? I imagine they're looking for that in food technicians, especially as they get more experience.
Oh, for sure. They might ask something like, describe a time when you went above and beyond your regular duties. What made you do that? Pick an example where you saw a problem or an opportunity for improvement and, you took action without being asked. Maybe you found a way to make a process more efficient or implemented a new safety rule or volunteered for a project that wasn't technically your job.
So it's all about showing you're proactive and that you're always thinking of ways to, make a difference. And this is another area where RoleCatcher can be super helpful. Their AI can figure out what competencies are most important for that specific job just by reading the description. Yeah, and it can even suggest examples from your own experience that match those competencies. It's like having a personalized guide to help you highlight your best qualities in a way that really clicks with the interviewer.
Man, this has been so helpful. We've talked about so much today, from technical questions to those super tricky competency-based ones. I feel like our listeners are ready to rock that interview.
I think so too. And remember, practice makes perfect. The more you rehearse your answers and think about different situations, the more confident and prepared you'll feel on the big day.
Okay, so we've prepped for those tough questions. And thanks to RoleCatcher, we've got our answers tailored to the specific company and job. But now, what about those last few minutes? How do we really seal the deal and make a great impression?
Well, one thing to remember is that an interview is a two-way street. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So how do we show them we're taking it seriously and really thinking about whether it's a good fit?
Asking great questions is key. Don't just stick to the basics about salary and benefits. Dig a little deeper. Ask about their company culture, how they approach innovation, what their biggest challenges are, things that matter to you as a potential employee.
So show them you're not just there for any job. You're thinking about whether this is the right place for you long term.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher's career guides can actually be really helpful here. They often give you insights into a company's values and leadership style, which can give you some good talking points.
It's like having a little bit of insider info on what they're looking for beyond the technical stuff.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of just being enthusiastic. Interviewers can tell when you're genuinely excited about the opportunity.
Right. Let that passion for food science shine through.
Talk about projects you loved, trends that are exciting to you, anything that shows this is more than just a job. It's something you really care about.
So even if you're nervous, let your inner food nerd loose. Any last words of wisdom as our listeners head into those interviews?
You've gotten this far, they see something in you. Just take a deep breath, relax, and let all that knowledge and personality shine. You've prepped using the best resources, including RoleCatcher's insights. Now it's just about showing them how awesome you are.
Great advice. And remember, you're not just there to answer questions. You're also deciding if they're the right fit for you. Ask those questions, be observant, and trust your gut. Good luck, everyone. We know you're going to do great. And bon appetit.